Now, when we look inward and we look at what we do, designing building buildings, and what is the contribution of buildings onto this problem, 40% of all the energy consumed in this country are consumed by buildings, and the buildings are responsible for about 71% of all the energy that is consumed, all the electricity that is consumed in this country. And that becomes a real problem in that when you look at how we produce electricity, predominantly in this country today, most electricity is produced using coal. So when we compare the burning of coal to the burning of fuel oil, there is roughly twice as much carbon dioxide produced per unit of energy coal as that for fuel oil. But because it's the buildings that are using the electricity, it's the buildings that are using the coal, and it's the buildings that are mostly contributing to the carbon dioxide problem. And in lies the problem. So much of the money that is spent on research and development in this country looking at the problem of sustainability and fuel consumption and CO2 emissions has been focused on industry, and it's been focused on the transportation industry. Hybrid cars, ethanol fuel, E85, looking at electric vehicles. I would argue that very comparatively, very little, almost nothing has been done with respect to trying to figure out how to design buildings that can significantly reduce the amount of electricity they consume and hence the amount of carbon dioxide that they produce. And there's other problems with our buildings beyond just the energy they consume and the pollutants they produce. According to the World Health Organization, 30% of all our buildings are unhealthy. And we also spend now more than 90% of our time inside. So if you do the math, you find out that most of us, or a lot of us, are spending a great deal of time in unhealthy environments. It's also a very large economic problem in that our companies in this country are spending, again, depending upon who you ask, anywhere between $17 and $48 billion a year on healthcare costs. And, of course, a lot of this can be contributed to the unhealthy environments in which we live. The project that we're going to show in a little while is in Guangzhou, China. And I don't know how many of you have visited China or Guangzhou, but the air quality there is absolutely terrible. And across the world we're seeing a rapid increase in disease, respiratory disease, and it's increased. Respiratory disease has increased 50% in the last decade alone. So again, looking at the United States, there's more than 80 billion square feet of space, of commercial office space built here in the United States today. So these buildings are consuming more than 5.7 quadrillion BTUs of energy. Now, to put it into perspective, this great city of New York, by the way, I have the best view. It's not often that you give a speech and you look out and you have the best view better than the audience. But in this city, it wasn't that long ago. It was only roughly 100 years ago when all of these buildings did not have air conditioning, and now they do. And it's the air conditioning that more than anything else is contributing to the power consumption and again to the pollutants that are being dispersed.